Welcome back, everyone. In the last video, we finished updating our with_matcher function that takes some action creator function and adds an additional functionality of them so that they can determine if a past action has the same type as the corresponding action that they create. We're now going to use them so that we can understand what this is doing. So inside of category action, let's import it in. And then what we're going to do is use with_matcher and wrap around each and every one of these different action creators. So these action creators we've made so far are going to be the argument that gets passed to with_matcher. And now what happens is that each of these are matchable action creators. They now have that extended .match method. So here, if I show you, fetch category start, dot type. What do you think this will be? This will be that category's action type, fetch category start. Because remember, type inside of our matchable reaches into the return type of that action creator and gets the actual type. So here, this is an action of the type categories fetch action start. So we're reaching into this function, getting this action type, and then getting the actual type from the enum and setting that to some type value at the top level of the actual function itself. Similarly, if you check the match function, it is also a function that receives some action of any action. And what it does is it types that predicate to fetch category start if it passes the match. So that's really all we're doing here. Now we're going to use these inside of the reducer. So now fetch category start, fetch categories success, fetch categories failed. So remember, the original problem we're aiming to solve is that we want to make it so that this reducer is way more accurate to what's going to actually happen. Essentially, each of these actions that come in can be any action at all. So let's import in any action from Redux. So instead of setting this to this discriminating union of category action, we know it can be any action. So now what we're going to do, instead of using this switch statement, is we're going to say, okay, if the action that you give me matches fetch category start. So I'm going to say fetch category start, match the action. If it matches, if you hover over this action now, what do you see? You see that the action has been narrowed. It must be of fetch category start. That's what we're doing here. If it matches, it must be of this type. So now what we're going to do is return back this category state, except isLoading is true. So instead of using switch and cases, we're literally saying them with if statements. Alternatively, if fetch categories success on this action, then what we're going to return is this, where the categories goes to the payload, isLoading goes to false. Again, if you check the action, you'll notice that for it to match, it must be type narrowed down to fetch category success in order for that to work. Similarly, if fetch categories failed, matches on the action, then we're going to return back this corresponding state block. There we go. Now what you'll see though is that we still have an error inside of category state. The reason why, when you hover over it, it says function lacks ending return statement and return type does not include undefined. So here we've explicitly stated that this function always returns you back some category state. But clearly that is not what's happening. So in order for this to work, we must explicitly return if none of these actions match any of our corresponding action creators. Then what we do is we return the default state. And now our categories reducer is fully type safe. So this is the whole thing that we were gunning to do in the end. We wanted to create all of these different action creator matchables so that they can correspondingly match the actions against the actions that they create. If they create an action that matches and it actually derives the correct action, then we'll update the state accordingly. So instead of using a switch statement, we now use this matchable pattern. And here now, this is very clear. We know as Redux developers, reducers can receive any action at all. How we respond to them now is much clearer. And now our code is expecting us to always return back category state. So this is a much more accurate and much more reflective of reality version of the categories reducer, but it's entirely type safe. So that was the whole idea around why we were trying to create this matchable type. So we can get rid of these variables that we're now no longer using, and we can even get rid of this discriminating union type. And now, again, I want you to really think about what we did here. Look at these functions, look at this matchable type, think about the flow and the justification around why we did it all. Because this is probably one of the most complicated parts of TypeScript, which was typing Redux, as I mentioned. Because essentially, Redux is a very flexible service. It receives any kind of action. But in order for our code to actually be type safe and for us to expectedly do what we need to do, we had to extend out some type of functionality that will do this type of type narrowing for us so that we know for sure if we get the correct action, then we respond accordingly in kind. Now, there are some arguments by some in the TypeScript Redux world that this is a little overkill, but honestly, it's just the way that TypeScript works. If you want all the benefits of TypeScript and you want that type narrowing and that static type analysis, then you have to commit, and you gotta commit fully. And in order to commit fully, you gotta learn about all of these different techniques: function overloading, intersection types, union types, discriminating unions, and the advantages and disadvantages that come with them inside of this context of Redux. We had to learn about this return type. We also had to learn about these type predicate functions and type narrowing. We've learned so many new things about TypeScript, and I'm hoping that through this you're starting to see that TypeScript itself, while complex, is really learnable. It's just, it takes a long time and a lot of practice. But much of TypeScript's advantages is that when you learn this, a lot of languages actually have these functionalities. They just come with a statically typed language. And TypeScript is trying to make JavaScript into as type safe and statically typed as possible. It's not all the way there, but it does really try to. And in order for it to do so, you gotta break the way that you think about JavaScript, because a lot of our JavaScript best practices come from thinking about the fact that JavaScript is not typed like that. Whereas with TypeScript, it's really trying to get that benefit. And the main advantage that comes with utilizing TypeScript in this context is that you really absorb and get the type safety that comes with it. You're really making your code a lot more predictable, because you're narrowing down as much of the types as possible, and you're narrowing down the actual functionality of the code that you've written. So with this, we've probably learned, honestly, 90 to 95% of what we need to do in order to type the rest of our application. The only thing that we haven't done is we have not typed the sagas. But what I want you to try is, I want you to type all the remaining files inside of these store folders. So try and type the cart and try and type the user. In the next video, we'll do it together, but I just want you to practice first. And then we'll continue typing out the rest of our middleware. We'll type our store, our root reducer, and from there, we'll finally type our sagas, and we'll see all of our code run with our Redux now fully typed. So try that for me, and then join me in the next video where we'll do it together.